I'm a 22-year-old male. I live in Minnesota, in a small, beautiful town named Baudette. Anyway, me and my friend Brett decided to go on holiday. We boarded the plane and were headed for the Andes for the weekend. We were excited as we sat down and buckled in, thinking about the beautiful scenery we would get to explore. Half an hour in, we hit some major turbulence and our oxygen masks fall. Everyone is panicking and fumbling to get their masks on. Suddenly the pilot loses control. I later found out that he'd had a heart attack and the co-pilot was unable to steady the plane. And we began descending at a very fast speed. Then darkness. I woke up disoriented. Where am I? Slowly sitting up, I see everyone around me, dead or dying. I will never forget the painful groans of the dying people. I looked beside me and my friend was gone too. Am I the only survivor? I was in a lot of pain, but I hadn't broken any bones, thankfully. I crawl out of the wreckage. I couldn't stay in there. Outside, nothing but mountains awaited me. I will have to try to stay here for now. It had been 3 days now. It's starting to really smell in here. Nobody's phone had signal. I checked a couple of people's mobiles, but nothing. I'd eaten all of the snacks on board by day 6 and I was getting hungry. Every day I'd search for food. Day 11 I became ravenous. I had searched everywhere and there were no plants or trees nearby from which I could forage, nor were there any wildlife for me to hunt. I didn't know how long I'd survive for. Dark thoughts and visions were beginning to set in. All of these people look appetizing. No, what was I thinking? I couldn't eat a person. Could I? No. I quickly brushed the thought aside and decided I'd eat some of the foam from the plane's broken seats. It didn't work for long. I kept on hearing crying coming from the back of the wreckage, but every time I reached the back there was nobody there, except for the bodies, still in their seats. Luggage kept moving by itself and I could still hear everyone's cries carrying in the wind. It was extremely eerie. I'm sure I was losing my mind. I needed to eat, and I needed to eat now. It had been 16 days now. My friend was looking very plump. He looked very delicious indeed. I was beginning to salivate. I couldn't control myself any longer. I climbed over luggage and past more dead bodies and got to my friend. He was badly battered, and his bones were protruding out of his skin. I was delighted at the thought of a nice meal. I began to pull at his arm. His flesh was wounded and exposed. I began chewing furiously at the flesh and it tasted amazing. I sucked on his blood, desperate for a drink. I ate every bit that I was able to consume and it felt awesome. Then suddenly felt sick and threw up. I couldn't believe what had just happened. I was sitting there, tears rolling down my cheeks, when I heard the crying again. I looked up and saw a woman standing there, black strands of hair covering her face. She stopped and lifted her head, her hair falling out of her face, and looked directly at me. She opened her mouth wider than I thought possible and screeched. I had to get out of here. She came towards me. I scrambled to my feet and began running. I didn't see the rock in front of me as I fell over it and hit my head. I woke up in hospital. I hoped it had all been a bad dream. The doctor, upon seeing I was awake, informed me of my accident and said, "You were extremely lucky to have been found. A chopper flying by had seen the wreckage and you not far from it. The pilot had brought you here, and the plane will be checked for any survivors." My heart sank. It was supposed to be a beautiful holiday, but it became a hellhole.